Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the athletic fields here at Milford High School, as Milford TV is happy to bring you coverage of Scarlet Hawks athletics presented by the Rail Trail Flatbread Company. Rail Trail Flatbread Company, a casual American dining experience specializing in an all-scratch-made kitchen featuring wood-fired flatbreads, an inviting atmosphere for the whole family to enjoy. And we come to you live from the Rentschler Biopharma broadcast booth once again as we enter into a big Scarlet Hawks showdown here today in boys soccer as Milford takes on the Franklin Panthers. And of course, so happy to have Rentschler Biopharma on board as our official sponsor of our broadcast booth. Rentschler Biopharma is a global contract development and manufacturing organization specializing in biopharmaceuticals and advanced therapies. They take pride in contributing to nearly 25% of FDA-approved biopharmaceuticals in 2023. Rentschler Biopharma, reliability you can trust. And Scarlet Hawks Athletics on Milford TV is also proudly presented by Unibank. Big bank know-how, community bank attitude. Check out their Milford branch over in the Shaw's Plaza here in the town of Milford. Milford TV Executive Director Tim Coet here with you on the call. It's been a little while since I've been with you here on air. Unfortunately, was feeling under the weather for Milford's football matchup with the Sharon Eagles last week, and I want to give a huge shout out to Chase Pettinelli for stepping up and manning that video-only coverage for you last Friday. Happy to be able to bring you some coverage, but back to full strength this week and a big game to kick off back-to-back big games here on the Milford turf in the next couple of days. But today we focus on the boys soccer team as the Scarlet Hawks get set to take on one of their big Kelly Rex division rivals in the Franklin Panthers. These are the top two teams in the Kelly Rex division standings. Franklin comes in first place. They are 11-3-1 overall on the season. Milford comes in a technical tie for second place with the Sharon Eagles. They are 8-4-4 overall on the season. Always an exciting matchup on the soccer pitch when these two teams get together. And really pleased to be able to have the coverage for you here today. Patrick Garapi manning the cameras up on top of the press box. Looked like we were maybe going to sneak the start of this game in a little bit early, but getting set to get going here just about on time at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Still some sunshine splashing across the field here, and not at all feeling like the end of fall. Temperatures over the 60-degree mark once again, close to 70 degrees where we've been most of this week. So a nice extended summer feel for these fall sports teams that have been absolutely spoiled with fantastic weather all season long. So great weather for a big-time boys soccer matchup that officially gets underway here, live across our Milford TV platforms locally on our Milford TV educational channel, our Verizon High Definition channel, and of course streaming anywhere, anytime on our YouTube channel. Happy to have all of our live viewers with us checking out the coverage here tonight. Still technically this afternoon, getting into the later afternoon hours. Milford looking to attack from left to right across your screens here in first half action. And a goal kick to be released by the sophomore Robbie Capelli, working on an excellent season in net for the Scarlet Hawks. Doing a lot to reacquaint ourselves with this program in preparation for this game today, as it's been about 5 weeks since the last time we've had a chance to cover boys soccer action for you here on Milford TV. A lot of road games in this last stretch for the Scarlet Hawks, but happy to be back at home. Milford will be home for their final 2 games of the regular season, this one included, and we'll have them both for you on Milford TV. We'll be back with you for soccer action on Monday as Milford closes out the regular season against the Taunton Tigers. It is Franklin who controls here in the early stages of this first half action, carrying over to the far side of the field. And a whistle going against Milford here, so setting up a free kick for, it looks like, Matt Honekamp, one of the captains for this Franklin squad. Second meeting of the season between these two teams. Straight line kick on a bounce, stays out in front of the net. And that ball deflects out of play, and it will be a corner kick chance here for the Panthers, so applying a lot of pressure here in these early minutes. Can see a pretty steady breeze blowing from left to right. That flag next to Honekamp in the corner fully extended. As he'll send a high looping kick out towards the edge of the box. This will travel the width of the field. Franklin can't save it. It goes out of play right in front of the Panthers bench. Very sizable contingent on that bench for the Panthers. And this ball takes a roll all the way back to the other end where it is picked up by the senior keeper for the Panthers, Casey Flynn. A new head coach for the Franklin Panthers boys soccer team this season, something that Franklin has not had to deal with in over 50 years. Coach Fran Basidas, a legendary coach in the boys soccer ranks, retiring after coaching the Panthers to an unbeaten regular season last year and an appearance in the Elite Eight round of the playoffs. A great season for the Panthers last year. They ended up graduating almost the entire contingent of starters from last year's team, but as Franklin often does across their sports, able to reload. And at the top of the Kelly Rec standings here, Milford in a little bit of trouble there defensively, able to get numbers back. Captain Gabe Santos angling that ball back to Capelli, who will leave it on the ground. A bit enticing for Josh Rappa, who was in the area for the Panthers. Milford trying to get something going on their attacking side, but Franklin keeps action under their control across the middle. And we'll gather back in over towards the far side of the field. 4 minutes into this first half action, and heavy contact to break things up. Good play for Mike Gonzalez. This ball will roll free back to the Franklin defense, who will chip it back in. Milford moving again towards midfield, but right now a tough wall to beat over the middle for the Scarlet Hawks, I should say. Long toss in here will come all the way towards the middle of the box. Milford is able to punch it out, and heavy contact right over the middle. The Scarlet Hawks will get the free kick and in stride continue to bring it forward. Finally some action on the attacking side, and Milford maybe a little antsy after being back in their defensive end. A quick release on a shot that went towering over the Franklin net. Was taken, I believe, by Brian Ribeiro. Scoreless in the early going. It was Milford who prevailed in the first matchup between these two teams earlier this season. It was back on September 30th, a 2-0 victory at Franklin High School. Two goals for Gio Capelli as part of that victory against Franklin. Capelli continues to lead this team in goals with 10, amongst the top goal scorers in the Hockomock League. No doubt Franklin will make it their main objective to hold Capelli in check. Right now on the sidelines in the opening 10 minutes of this game. Tico Lorenzo lining up for a free kick. 33.5 minutes on the first half clock. You can continue to feel a pretty steady breeze. Milford kicking into that breeze as this ball goes through traffic, and a redirect attempt again goes screaming over the net. That may have been Gabe Santos hacking away there looking for a goal. So now 7 minutes in to this first half, and it is Casey Flynn lining up for the goal kick. that loss that Franklin suffered to Milford back on September 30th, that is the last loss that this Franklin team has suffered. They have been on a tear since then. 7 straight victories for the Panthers. A lot of those victories shutouts. 5 of those 7 consecutive victories for the Panthers have been shutout wins. So coming in with momentum. Milford has been playing well for the most part. A bit of a disappointing loss back on October 18th here at home against Attleboro. A 1-0 defeat. Able to rebound with a 1-0 victory over King Philip on the road 2 days ago. This ball in a dangerous spot once again, angled back out, and then Lorenzo able to guide it back as far as center. And now again, Milford will dump ahead, but this ball will take a hop out of play. Milford head coach Antonio Pinto, assistant Mike De Silva, active on the sidelines. The new head coach for Franklin is Nick Goldman, assisted by Lou Mokia and Mark Scagliarini. Up to dip under 31 minutes to play. As again, Franklin continues to control the early action here for the most part. Milford showing good layers there inside the box. The ball gets partially cleared, but Franklin pounces on it. And right now, Franklin definitely appearing to be the more aggressive team. And the Panthers are going to have a free kick here just a couple of yards outside of the box. So good opportunity here. It looks like Honekamp once again lining up for the free kick. On one bounce, a sure-handed save by Robbie Capelli. Capelli with an impressive kick. Sails about 2/3 of the way up the field. And Milford now trying to break it out up the far sideline. They'll dump this ball in, but just a little bit too far in front for Danny De Silva to make a play. It ends up in the hands of Flynn. And 10 minutes gone now in this first half action, still scoreless in a game that has major implications for the Kelly Rex Division title. Unfortunately for Milford, that loss to Attleboro last week could end up being a big deciding factor. It looked for a time that this game was going to have a little bit more importance, with Milford just 2 points behind Franklin, but after that loss to Attleboro, the differential ended up growing to 4. And so in order for Milford to come away with a share of the Kelly Rex Division title, they would need to win this game today, as well as the season finale on Monday against Taunton. And Franklin, who has not lost in the month of October, would have to lose their final 2 games. And only then would these 2 teams share the Kelly Rex crown. But still a possibility of a division title share for Milford. That hangs in the balance with the outcome of this game today. Ball looping out of play. 28-25 on the first half clock. The last time we had a chance to cover this Milford team, it was quite a while ago. It was back on September 19th with Milford facing the Canton Bulldogs, and it was good times all the way through that game against Canton, as Milford earned a 5-0 victory. It's the most goals they've scored in any game this season. Overall, Milford has scored 24 goals through their first 16 games of the season. They have allowed just 12. The goals allowed numbers for these two schools are similar. 12 goals allowed on the season for Milford, 11 allowed for Franklin. The difference is in the offensive output. 24 goals scored for Milford, 48 goals scored so far this season for this Panthers offense. That is the top scoring offense in all of the Hockomock League. But of course, with that being said, Milford was able to hold this team scoreless when they played back in September. Milford up the far sideline, and well, it looked like a little bit of a grab there for number 18, Luke Georges. No whistle, and Franklin is able to take over. Now Milford with a little flick to get things back under control. Back towards the middle, and a good feed over now towards the near side of the field for De Silva. To the corner, now a centering pass, but nobody home but white jerseys, and Franklin able to clear it out. Milford will gather back in the center circle. Gio Capelli still on the sidelines with 26:23 to go. Four-on-four battle there momentarily. Now Santos dumps upfield. That will go out of play just past the Milford bench for a Franklin toss-in. 25:55 on this first half clock. Little dump towards the middle, and Milford able to act quickly to guide it out. Hawks having to expend a lot of energy on defense through this early portion of the first half. Another whistle going against Milford, and Coach Pinto fiery on the sidelines against his own player after committing that foul. And another free kick here for the Panthers. Camp in deep, clearing it out. Janelli Cassine. And then up ahead for Milford, on sides to De Silva. And a deflection comes back towards Gonzalez. More heavy contact there as De Silva gets taken down. Body's getting tangled up, no whistle. And De Silva with a few words for the official after that no call. Now, it looks like there was a whistle after all. We didn't hear it, but lining up for a free kick now is Lorenzo. Coach De Silva in his ear right behind, as Lorenzo instead goes the short route with this ball. It's going to run out of space, and it'll be a goal kick here for Franklin. So perhaps getting a little bit too cute on the play there for Lorenzo, and nothing develops. A chance for Franklin to send it back the other way with 23:33 still to go in the first half. You can feel the tension out there on the field between both of these teams right now. Franklin seeming to be a little bit more comfortable and able to execute their game plan. Milford feeling a little bit of pressure here through these early minutes, and meanwhile this ball ends up in the back of the net, but that goal will not count. We'll have a goal kick here from Flynn. Substitutions for Franklin before we continue. Ball takes a hop off of Enrique Andrade out of bounds. Another toss in for the Panthers, now back on their attacking side of the field. Keep it on the ground. Milford able to take over. It's Lorenzo. Tries for a self pass. Can he get there in time? No, that one's going to roll out of play. A little bit too much on that. He was able to get past one defender and then tried to win the foot race to the near sideline, but that ball trickles out. Another toss in for the Panthers. The only other losses for Franklin on the season, they actually lost their season opener 2-1 against Oliver Ames. Milford also losing to OA in a close battle a couple of weekends ago. And then also a 1-0 loss to St. John's Prep on September 21st. So two opponents that also came into Milford this season and earned victories against the Scarlet Hawks, able to beat this Panthers team as well. Milford sending this ball over to Lorenzo. He keeps it inbounds. Around a defender, trying to work back towards the middle now. A lot of good footwork there for Lorenzo, but now this ball deflected out. One back by Gonzalez. Little jersey tuck there. Again, the refs let it go. Milford will try to reload this ball out of the reach of De Araujo. About to reach the midway point of this first half. Still looking for our first goal. Santos looking to start another breakout. All the way deep to the corner. It'll be a goal kick for Franklin as subs come into the game now with 19 minutes and 34 seconds remaining in the first half. Straight line kick to the midfield. Marcos de Silva trying to dump that ball back in. Franklin will carry it back onto their attacking side. Once again, it is Matt Honekamp. This ball will sneak into the box. A hard time there for Santos to clear it out, and Capelli finally steps up and will settle things down. Potentially dangerous situation there, diffused by the sophomore keeper. The header for Franklin takes a nice little Milford bounce, but no one in red can settle it. Instead, it's Franklin right back on the attack. Meanwhile, we still wait to see the first game action of the afternoon for Milford's leading scorer. Battle for possession along the far sideline as this ball will trickle out of play. Wind still blowing, but with a little less intensity here as we continue on in the first half. Milford again having to angle the ball out of play. It'll be a toss-in for the Panthers with just over 17 minutes on the first half clock. And again, into the hands of Capelli, who looks to get Milford jump-started. This ball will take a big roll, but all the way back into the hands of Casey Flynn, the keeper. Reverses over to the near side. Andrade trying for a steal. And out of play again. Toss in for Milford. Right now, Danny De Silva on the sideline. Lorenzo trying to protect, and that will roll out of play. Milford will have the possession. All the way down the sideline, Lorenzo gets there. Keeps this ball low to the ground, looking for Mikey Morera. And now 3 players go down in a heavy collision, and they will whistle Milford for the contact. They'll bring out Flynn to take the kick. Blasts this ball into the box on the other end of the field. Milford able to guide it back out towards the midfield, and now rolling out of play on the near side after making contact. No, apparently not making contact with Lorenzo, so Milford gets the toss in. Franklin on the move. The defense collapses in. Garrett Scagliarini, the leading scorer for Franklin, involved on that play. And a lot of shoving from behind. This time draws the whistle, and Lorenzo giving a quick shove of his own before clearing himself for the free kick. More exclaiming from the sidelines after contact. This ball will roll free to Franklin. And then one back. Nice play over the middle by the sophomore De Arrojo. Now a tricky little hop in towards net. And so they end up awarding a yellow card. The contact came as the ball went in towards the keeper. And perhaps a little embellishment after the fact by Flynn. So a yellow card issued to Martins, it looks like. And a judgment call play there, both going after the loose ball. And so you can hear right now Coach Pinto arguing the case with one of the officials. And according to the official, it was their judgment that Flynn already had possession when the contact took place. Meanwhile, it looks like Flynn will make a full recovery. And so meanwhile, it looks like Coach Pinto electing to take the timeout here. So the clock paused right now at 13:34. Perhaps trying to settle things down as tempers were running high after a questionable call goes against Milford. Yellow card issued to Marquinhos Martins. But we are still scoreless. And so the teams continue to talk things over down at the field. So again, we mentioned it right off the top of the broadcast, beginning back-to-back key matchups here on the Milford turf. The soccer game here this afternoon for Milford against Franklin, and then a big one tomorrow night as the football team will look to continue to build off of a massive victory last week against the Sharon Eagles, a 49-0 beatdown of the Sharon Eagles. It'll be certainly a different type of matchup this week as Milford hosts their big Kelly Rex Division rival in the King Philip Warriors. KP, as usual, unbeaten on the season coming into the matchup. Milford at 500, so obviously a little bit of a different situation for Milford than what we've seen. It's typically been a matchup of unbeaten teams the last few years when Milford and KP have gotten together. Milford has not been able to get over the hump to defeat KP in this last several year run of deep playoff performing teams. So we'll see how Milford competes with another dominant KP squad here on the turf tomorrow night. That game will kick off at 7 o'clock. We'll have the live coverage for you across all of our Milford TV platforms. Should be a good one. Looks like we're about to rejoin the action, and once again we come to you live from our Rentschler Biopharma broadcast booth to bring you this coverage this afternoon. Coverage presented by the Rail Trail Flatbread Company and also in cooperation with Unibank. So grateful for all of our outstanding sponsors, all great local businesses here in the Milford area. Just over 13 minutes to go. Still scoreless. This ball in, and a nice grab by Robbie Capelli, who was already laid out on the turf. Wyatt Herndon, one of the Franklin captains, trying to sneak that ball past the keeper, who would come far out to make the play, but sticky hands there for Capelli. And meanwhile, Milford looks to answer with a rifle shot in from distance, but that ball well to the near side of the goal. Ball once again goes out of play. Esteves to toss back in. Tipping under the 12-minute mark as Lorenzo has that ball go off his body and out of play. Hard to believe we're already at the end of this regular season. Again, just one game remains for this boys soccer team after they finish up today. Free kick here for Lorenzo. Wind active again. And that will carry this ball out of play. Another good boot for Flynn. Milford trying to apply pressure on the defensive side. Angled back towards Lorenzo. He hacks it back just across the center line, but then gathered right back in by the Panthers. Push back once again to Honekamp. And then a nice header over in the direction of Scagliarini. He'll try to gather back in the corner. This ball will go out of play, and Franklin will have the corner kick. And Scagliarini initially lining up to take the kick, but he will give way to Honekamp. First corner kick of the match. Comes with just under 10 minutes on the first half clock. And a hard deflection back across the goal mouth and then out of play on the near side. Ooh, was that close? Good redirect on the header that took a hop just in front of the near post and then went out of play. Fortunate bounce for the Scarlet Hawks as it stays scoreless. This ball will leak its way up the near sideline. The white jerseys there able to guide this ball back to the keeper. Back upfield, Santos trying to keep positioning, slides in, ball stays in play. And now cleared back upfield by Bruno Esteves. Milford able to pick it up. Over towards the far corner now. Marcos da Silva. Back in towards the box and snagged by Flynn. Gathered in now by Andre Misagia. And now Scagliarini will push in towards the box. Santos over towards the near sidelines. Lorenzo. Stepping out of play. And meanwhile, a Milford player down. This will bring trainer Ashley out from the sidelines, so the clock paused at 7:58. Some help to the sidelines. Andre Mora, the injured player from Milford, so he'll get looked at on the sidelines. Milford trying to break this ball up the near sidelines. Lorenzo getting it started. Sends this one back towards the middle. Mikey Morera, a little trouble settling that ball down. Back to Lorenzo now. And deflects that ball. Looked initially like we'd maybe get our first Milford corner kick, but the officials ruled that one out off of Milford. A little over 7 minutes remain in the half. Chess match here between Milford and Franklin. Franklin's had the better of the offensive chances overall in the half. A shaky start for Milford, but it's felt like they've gotten a bit more comfortable as the half has gone on. All up up the far sidelines. Ribeiro trying to make something happen. And now we will get a corner kick for the Scarlet Hawks. Danny De Silva comes back onto the field. And another ball that goes sailing out of play. Milford's been kicking into the wind on this side of the field throughout this half, and it's felt like on some of these free kick and corner kick chances that has been a big factor. A little over 5.5 minutes left as Flynn unloads. Gonzalez. And so it'll be possession Milford. It looked like Franklin was lobbying for a handball. Gonzalez trying to get a little too much of a head start there on the toss-in. Gets repositioned. Lorenzo battling with Scagliarini for possession. Gabe Santos drives this ball to the other end of the field, picked up on a bounce by Casey Flynn. Over the middle, Andrade loses his footing. Careful ball, pushed through the middle, trying to free De Silva. Just out of the reach there for Morera. Now hard deflection. Santos pops this ball up for grabs. And contact called against Ribeiro. Free kick for the Panthers with just over 3.5 minutes on the first half clock. And this ball will sail now for the Panthers. So the breeze series, making things interesting for both of these teams through the first half. Android to Gonzalez, and now series of passes. Franklin will end up taking over. Hard battle for positioning. Andrade losing the size battle, but able to win that ball. Good toughness. Milford will get the clear. Danny De Silva down the other end for Milford. Can't quite get there. Lorenzo, he won't get there in time. Andrade sticking his nose in again. Now this ball does find Danny De Silva. Tries to give himself a little space, now trying to free up Lorenzo. But a good play defensively for the Panthers, number 20, that is Aiden Klein. And the clock frozen the rest of the way, less than 2 minutes to go. Ball stolen away from Lorenzo. Gathered back in now by Andrade, pushes back towards the middle, waiting for it, Ribeiro. Pushed into the box, but it'll be booted away by Casey Flynn. Milford will look to get things restarted. Back the other way by the Franklin defense, and Milford feeling the pressure from behind there as Josh Rappa was streaking in. Franklin able to get around Gabe Santos. The ball up for grabs as Capelli was sprawled out, able to get back to his feet as this ball is cleared back out towards center. A scary moment there. Franklin trying to ratchet up the attack here in these closing moments. Ball drifting in towards Scagliarini. And D'Araujo able to get a clear up the far sideline, and so that's our final whistle for the first half. So a defensive battle. Franklin with some good opportunities throughout. Milford perhaps caught a little flat-footed in the early minutes, but overall these teams dueling to a scoreless mark halfway through. So we will step aside here for a brief halftime, and we'll be back with what should be a very interesting second half between Milford and Franklin, tied at 0. Stay with us. We'll be back with second half coverage here as we bring you all of the action live from our Rentschler Biopharma broadcast booth. Also want to acknowledge Unibank as a sponsor for our sports coverage, and of course our presenting sponsor is the Rail Trail Flatbread Company. Back in about 7 minutes to start the second half. Stay with us here on Milford TV. coverage of Scarlet Hawks athletics here on Milford TV is presented by the Rentschler Flatbread Company, celebrating their 1-year anniversary of their Main Street location here in Milford. Check them out. A lot of delicious offerings over at the Rentschler Flatbread Company. Coverage also brought to you in part by Unibank. Big bank know-how, community bank attitude, serving the Milford area from their branch in the Shaw's Plaza. And of course, coverage also brought to you in part by Rentschler Biopharma, proud sponsor of our broadcast booth. Rentschler Biopharma, they take pride in their contributions to nearly 25% of FDA-approved biopharmaceuticals in 2023. We return here to the soccer pitch for second half action. Milford facing off against Franklin, a game that could go a long way to deciding the Kelly Rex Division winner for 2024. The first and second place teams in the Kelly Rex colliding here in Milford today. It's a scoreless game. Good hard-fought battle through the first half. And the big note on the Milford side is that so far Milford has been playing this game without the services of Gio Capelli. And an opportunity briefly developing there for Danny De Silva, but again, good disciplined defense for the Panthers. That has really been the story of this game on both sides. Both defenses stepping up, making big plays. And so Capelli, we hear, tweaked something in Milford's most recent game against King Philip. Hoping to get into this game at some point. We saw him doing some stretching just before the second half, but he has yet to make an appearance out on the field. So obviously a big loss for Milford to not have their scoring leader, and of course Gio Capelli scoring 2 of his 10 goals on the season in Milford's win against Franklin back in September. So we will see if Gio is able to get onto the field at any point here in the second half. Still a spectator as we're about to reach 2 minutes in to the second half action. Milford now attacking from right to left across your screens in the second half. Tim Coet here with you on the call. Patrick Garapi manning the cameras. Robbie Capelli picking up this loose ball. Sending it on a roll out to Andre Mora, back out onto the field after he was shaken up earlier in the first half. Up ahead now, Milford trying to stay with it. De Silva gets bumped off over towards the near sideline. That ball goes out of play. Milford will toss it down towards the corner, trying to find De Silva. De Silva centering up for Lorenzo, gets in front of the defense, and the ball gets plucked away by Flynn. Nice play by the Franklin keeper. Lorenzo was in alone, but just could not get a clear angle towards the net, and Flynn fearless out to make the play. It's the best opportunity of the game so far for the Scarlet Hawks, as this ball comes screaming in to the near side of the Milford goal. Now trying to make a move upfield. The Panthers dominated the early portion of the first half. Milford able to settle in as time went on over the course of the first half of play. Now a deep toss in, gets deflected away and out of play for a Franklin toss-in. Ribeiro now trying to break this ball out, but this will drift back across the middle. Lorenzo closing in, and now DiRuggio pushing out towards the midfield. Gathered back in by the Franklin defense. Georges. Santos with a clear. Chipped back in by Honekamp. Silva and Ribeiro collapse in. The ball goes out of play off of the Scarlet Hawks. Franklin at 11-3-1 overall on the season. Milford at 8-4-4. Good ball finding De Silva. A little backwards pass to Lorenzo. Good ball control, and now plucked away by another good defensive play by Aiden Klein. And the Franklin fans in attendance pleased with the good defensive effort. Milford plays this ball over to the keeper and now back over into the corner. Gio Capelli communicating with his teammates on the sideline while he continues to stretch out. Ten goals perched on the bench throughout this game so far for the Scarlet Hawks. By the looks of it, doing everything he can to prove to his coaching staff he can get out there. Ribeiro trying to gather back in. Good footwork for Luke Georges. And so right now, Gio Capelli standing at the center line, and he will enter the game. He'll replace Tico Lorenzo, and so Gio Capelli out for his first game action here against Franklin on the day today. Scored 2 goals against this team in a big win midway through the season. .5 minutes to go in the second half. In a scoreless game. The middle, De Silva trying to push it along. Capelli there in the area. And now a hard deflection off of Moreira that will travel all the way down towards the Milford bench and out of play. Still a lot of stretching for Capelli even now out there on the field. As this ball takes a bounce in. Scagliarini keeping Capelli honest in net. Honekamp pushes over to the far sideline for the Panthers. Substitutions coming in now for Franklin as we dip under 31 minutes to play. Still looking for our first goal in this one. Feels like the majority of fans in attendance are Panther fans. Just a short car ride down 495. This ball bouncing around. Franklin able to keep control, and now stolen away by Brian Ribeiro. And now loses control just shy of midfield. They'll have a chance to toss it back in. They'll toss it in the direction of Capelli. First time he gets a touch in the game, just brief. Sent down deep by D'Arujo. Capelli there. But Flynn calmly settles things down. Now Mora on to Capelli. Hard to tell if it's a quad or a knee that is what is bothering Gio Capelli. Trying to get comfortable out there now as he's been out on the field for the last couple of minutes, his first action of the day. Waits for this ball to come down out of his reach. And now again, Franklin will push back to their keeper. Coach De Silva calling for more focus from his team. As we get deeper and deeper into the second half, Ribeiro now trying to weave through a trio of defenders. But again, Franklin clears back upfield. Andrew pops this ball straight up. Morera waits for it to come down. Ribeiro just a step slow as this ball is guided back to the Franklin defense. Georgia starts it, pushes it on towards his teammates up ahead. Ball briefly into the box. Milford a nice clear. And now Capelli over the middle. And sends this ball through, hoping that Danny De Silva could catch up. Instead, Franklin allows it to roll back into the box for Flynn to pick up. Lorenzo ready to check back into the game at the next opportunity. And from the looks of it, it will be Capelli who goes right back to the sidelines, as does Danny De Silva. So not much in the way of opportunities to impact the game for Gio Capelli. We'll see if that's all we see of the sophomore the rest of the way. Obviously a delicate balance for Coach Pinto. You certainly want your leading scorer out there, but you want him to be healthy, especially for the postseason. And right now, Milford certainly in playoff contention. We'll take a look at the latest updated power rankings for Division II at the next opportunity. 26.5 minutes remaining in this game. Lorenzo, after a rest, back into the action. Ends up down on the turf after the play. So the last update to the Division II boys soccer power rankings on the MIAA website was 2 days ago. At that point, Milford found themselves in the number 23 position, so within the top 32 in a playoff spot. And Milford trying to start something here. Ribeiro, a step on the defense, and the ball deflected away. It's the second time in this half that Milford has gotten ahead of the defense. Maybe a little bit too tentative for Ribeiro, and it gave Terry a chance to flick that ball away. Milford with a corner. Dumped back in by D'Araujo, and then picked up by the keeper. So nothing doing there for the Scarlet Hawks. And again, perhaps another situation where they missed that finishing touch around the net from Gio Capelli. Milford allows that ball to go out of play. It will be a goal kick. Capelli now releases another hard line drive kick. Pushed across the center line by Milford. Gathered in by Henrique Andrade. Pushed down the far sideline, and now back to Marcos da Silva. Mikey Moreira, Brian Ribeiro. Ribeiro chips it over towards the corner. Ball goes out of play off of the Franklin defender. Good work there for Ribeiro. He'll make the toss. Sends it back to D'Araujo. Now pushed forward by Franklin. Lorenzo trying to turn on the Jets to catch up to that ball. He'll get to this one as he carries over the middle. A dump towards the near sideline for Ribeiro. Trying to win it back. Another tough play. Luke Georges has been a big factor on defense for Franklin today. Andrade surveying options, elects to dump back to the defense, and now push down the far sideline where it'll be gathered in by the Franklin keeper. Field now fully in shadow. So the lights will start to come on here on the turf field. Less than an hour of daylight remaining. The feel of an early fall day, but the shorter daylight of the end of October. Should have decently mild weather tomorrow as well for the football matchup against King Philip. Again, anyone just tuning in, we'll have live coverage tomorrow night. A huge Kelly Rex Division clash on the gridiron between Milford and KP. Live coverage at 7 o'clock across all of our platforms. Free kick here for the Panthers goes all the way to Robbie Capelli, who makes a sure-handed play. So far, both of these teams have played relatively mistake-free. as Capelli now has to make an athletic play in midair, punching that ball over towards the far sidelines. Every play getting more and more critical as we get deeper into the second half, about midway through now, the second half action. Lorenzo, the header, it's dumped back in. Andre Mora now again in deep. Milford has to play it out of bounds. Silva and Esteves ready to check back into this game at the next opportunity. Not looking to be an imminent return for Gio Capelli, as this ball is flicked over towards the near post. Capelli was able to get a hand on it to make sure that stayed out of the net. Ball out of play by the Milford bench. Subs will have a chance to come in. Josh Rappa will toss back in for the Panthers. Partial clear for Lorenzo. Franklin making some players miss, getting this ball in deep, and that ball wide to the far side of the net. A little trick of the eye at first glance, seeing that ball bounce around behind the goal, but that stayed out. Unable to push forward past the midfield for Marcos da Silva. Lorenzo forcing Franklin to dump this ball backwards. Now ahead towards da Silva. Can he win it back? Franklin taking no chances. They push this ball back towards the keeper. All the way down the other way into the corner. Rappa will toss back in as we tick down to 17.5 minutes to play in the second half. Ball hanging around inside the box. Milford able to get a partial clear, but right back on the attack now for Franklin. Here's da Silva, good speed. Gathers back in, tries to push a pass back. Now it winds up on the foot of Andrade. Milford trusting the speed of da Silva to get to that ball, then the self-pass trickled a little bit too far for da Silva to have an angle on net. Play broke down from there. Meanwhile, the other way, Robbie Capelli taking care of business. A .75 goals allowed average on the season for Robbie Capelli. Really have not seen much in the way of sustained attack for Milford in this second half. Franklin trying to restart things quickly. Free kick for Honekamp. Senior captain Matt Honekamp. Will send a strike in on net. The save made by Capelli. He'll let a rebound go. That ball ended up bouncing off the side of the goal and then out of bounds, and so now a timeout called. So more tense moments for Milford. Again, it has been Franklin who has dominated much of the second half. Milford with a couple of chances ahead of the defense that did not materialize into real scoring threats. But Milford really on their heels through much of the second half. And again, playing the majority of this game without Gio Capelli's services. Came out for one brief stint in the second half. Maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then back to the sideline, and now handing out water to his teammates. Does not look like he will re-enter this game. Looking at the scoring overall on the season, again, we told you Milford with 24 goals scored coming into action today. Of those 24, 10 of the goals have been scored by Capelli on 2 assists. Brian Ribeiro 3 goals and 1 assist. Danny De Silva with 2 goals on 8 assists. Tico Lorenzo with 2 goals on the season. Martins with 2 goals. And then 1 goal apiece. Bruno Esteves, Gabe Santos, Mateos de Jesus. Diaz with a goal as well. But obviously the bulk of the scoring punch has come courtesy of the sophomore Gio Capelli. Through all of last season, Milford scored a total of 26 goals. So on a similar offensive pace to where they were a season ago. The difference, certainly the defense has tightened up quite a bit. Just 12 goals allowed for Milford so far this season. They allowed a total of 39 goals a season ago. A little over 15 minutes remain in the second half. Back in action after the timeout. This ball will bounce its way back, but no problem for Casey Flynn. Flynn has not had a lot of work in front of him in this half. Involved in a bit of a controversial play in the first half. Going for a ball in the box up against Marquinhos Martins. The two collided. The officials ruled that Flynn had already secured possession, and so Martins was awarded a yellow card. Toss in here for Franklin. This ball headed forward by Scagliarini, but sails over the crossbar and out of play. And this will take us down under 14 minutes to play. And angled over towards Lorenzo with a full head of steam and a slide for Aiden Klein, breaking up the bid for Lorenzo. Milford with a short toss, and Franklin no problem diffusing the situation. A tie here today does not do any good for Milford's hopes for a share of the Kelly Rex title. Obviously, they would take a point in terms of their overall playoff positioning, but an outright victory is the only thing that will keep Milford in the running for a share of the division crown heading into their final game on Monday. Capelli gathers in, releases towards the near sideline. Mikey Marrera trying to spin away from contact. Take that ball up ahead. Ball ends up out of play, and now rolling back and out once again. This time a Franklin toss in. Cutting over towards the far side of the field. Milford trying to thread that ball over towards Marcos da Silva. Didn't make it there. Marrera pushing over. Da Silva in. Da Silva shoots, and Danny Da Silva scores. Mikey Marrera jump-starting that play. Da Silva springs free. Quick release on the shot, and Danny Da Silva scores. Out of nowhere, an offensive chance develops for Milford. And finally, we get a goal in this game with a little over 11 and a half minutes to go. The Scarlet Hawks will take a 1-0 lead. A huge goal on the season for Danny Da Silva. Mikey Marrera with a huge assist as well. This offense frustrated through most of this game. Just talking about it a moment ago, not a lot of traffic in front of Flynn in the second half, but Marrera with a great ball to get that play started, and Da Silva finds the finishing touch to give Milford a big 1-0 lead, but still a lot of time left in the second half, over 11 minutes on the clock. Lights now on here at the Milford turf. Lorenzo gathers in at the center circle. Had to rush that ball upfield as he had pressure coming in. Franklin takes over. So Danny Da Silva scores his third goal of the season. Looks to be the first assist of the season for Mikey Marrera. And we dip under 10 minutes to play. Hard deflection out of play off the body of Andre Mora. Toss in once again by Josh Rappa. This ball all the way in past the post and smothered by Robbie Capelli. Up ahead, out of the reach of Ribeiro. Gathered in by Franklin's Gabe Terry. Broken up by De Arujo. Andrade trying to get loose. Franklin pushes back to the defense. But to scramble with Ribeiro streaking in. Lorenzo breaking things up. Andrade out of play along the far sideline. Ticking down towards 8 minutes to play. This ball in deep. Offsides is the call. Franklin helping to facilitate getting that ball back to Capelli to try to preserve some clock. Now under 8 minutes. All stolen away by Martins. Whistle going against Franklin. Santos will line up for the kick. Franklin an easy pickup. Now Santos sky high clear, comes down just out of the reach of Ribeiro. And dumped in all the way back for Robbie Capelli. And again, Scagliarini forces Capelli to pick up. Lorenzo trying to keep that ball moving forward for Milford. More time comes off the clock, less than 6.5 minutes to go. Lorenzo trying for a quick turn up field, now dishes to the near sideline for Ribeiro, who gets tripped up. No whistle. Hard boot up ahead over Gabe Santos, but Capelli reading it the whole way. And the two players who had the goal and the assist, De Silva and Moreira, who had been on the sidelines, now ready to re-enter at the next opportunity. As we tick down to 5.5 minutes to play. Five minutes still a long time with just a 1-goal differential. This ball will scoot out of play, and this will give Moreira and De Silva a chance to rejoin the action. And clock about to be frozen as we're now under 5 minutes to go. Meanwhile, a player down, getting stretched out for Milford. It's Enrique Andrade, now back to his feet. Franklin waiting to toss back in. Milford dumps it out. Played about 68.5 minutes of scoreless action here before Danny De Silva was able to break through on a fast-developing offensive chance. Milford will get a deep toss in here. Right now it's De Silva. It looks like he will hand off to Esteves. Hard shoulder check. But apparently hard enough to warrant a whistle. Flynn, the keeper, sends this ball ahead. Angled out of play by Milford. Dangerous toss in here. In towards the post, deflected back out to the edge of the box by Milford. Moreira will look now to get it started going the other way. The defense will dump back in. Santos, and then a little backward flick by Gonzalez. A pass right on the money to Danny De Silva. Milford will waste some time as they dump ahead. It's been a disciplined effort all the way through here for Milford, looking to carry it across the finish line. Maybe about 3 minutes to go, as Andre briefly slipped his way through, but the ball left behind. In deep. And driven out of play by Cassine. Franklin, a frantic effort to get that ball tossed back in quickly. Time winding down. As this ball slips through all the way to Capelli, and he's able to hold on. Looked like maybe that ball was going to come back out. And regardless, the play was ruled offsides. 2 long minutes left to go. Over to De Silva. Keeps it in play, gets it over to Moreira. Moreira back to De Silva, and then a hop out of play. Coach Pinto all the way at the 50-yard line, making sure there are no mistakes made in this critical point in the game. As Milford sends it down into the corner. Now the Franklin toss in, trying to get things organized. Play almost breaks down to give De Silva a chance. Ball out of play right at midfield. Toss back in. Milford in full prevent defense mode. Trying to protect a 1-goal lead to the final whistle. Dumped in and out of play for a corner kick chance for the Franklin Panthers. With only seconds to go, they'll bring the keeper up into the play. And the wind will carry this ball from corner to corner, and there is the final whistle. On the back of a single goal scored by Danny De Silva with about 11.5 minutes to go in the second half, Milford earns their second victory this season over the Franklin Panthers, their second shutout victory of the season against the Franklin Panthers as they win this game by a final score of 1-0. And so Milford keeps their hopes alive for a share of the Kelly Rex Division title. What an effort for this entire team here today. Superb play in net for Robbie Capelli. And of course, Milford able to get things done here today without the services of Gio Capelli, who was injured in the game against King Philip. So certainly concern for Milford the rest of the way. But able to get things done without their goal-scoring leader out on the field today, defeating King Philip again, I beg your pardon, defeating the Franklin Panthers by a final score of 1-0. So with that victory, Milford improves to 9-4-4 on the season. They also break up a 7-game win streak for the Panthers, who now fall to 11-4-1 on the season. So very interesting to see how things shake out the rest of the way. We will, of course, be back with this team for their regular season finale coming up on Monday against the Taunton Tigers. That game expected to get underway around 6 p.m. Franklin, meanwhile, does have 2 games remaining, but only one in Kelly Rex Division play. It will be a road game against Sharon, also to be played on Monday next week. So depending on how things go on that game and if there's any coverage online, we'll try to keep an eye on that game as well when we cover Milford's action against Taunton on Monday. But a good win for the Scarlet Hawks here today, as again they defeat Franklin by a final score of 1-0. We hope you'll have us. We hope you will join us for our next coverage here on Milford TV, which will be for the Milford football team tomorrow night, right back here on the turf, as they take on the King Philip Warriors. You can watch that game across all of our Milford TV platforms. But that's going to wrap things up here for tonight. A big thank you to Patrick Garapi helping out on the coverage, and a big thank you to all of our sponsors for Scarlet Hawks Athletics: Unibank, our broadcast booth sponsor, Rentschler Biopharma, and of course the Rail Trail Flatbread Company, our presenting sponsor. I am Tim Coet. That final score one final time: Milford defeats Franklin 1-0. This has been a presentation of Milford High School Athletics here on Milford TV. So long, everybody.